Hello. Welcome to the information seminar on the MSW program at Brigham Young University. The voice you're hearing is that of Jini Roby. I'm a professor in the School of Social Work, and I'm happy to have a chance to talk to you about our program. We believe that we have an excellent program to help you achieve your own personal excellence in clinical social work and research. So as you're listening today, I hope you will enjoy the information, maybe jot down some questions you may have, and contact us. We'll give you an email address at the end. Anyway, welcome to the seminar, and here we go. So here you see pictures of 4 people. I'm the one in the red sweater. And currently I'm serving as the MSW Admissions Committee Chair. To my left on your screen, you see Dr. Gordon Lim, who is the director of the School of Social Work. A terrific guy, I'm going to tell you. And then to my right on your screen is Charlene Clark, and she is an amazing department secretary that runs the show for all of us. And then there's Nancy Schumpert, who is also an amazing person that runs the graduate program. And when you write in for information, Nancy is the one that is going to be answering. And if she has to consult with me, then I will also be a part of that. Nancy will also be giving part of the presentation about the nitty-gritties of applying to the program a little bit later. So let's talk generally about the profession of social work for a few minutes. What the employment projections are showing by the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics is very encouraging about the profession of social work. It is expected to grow by greater rates than other professions. So currently, as you can see at the top line where it says social workers, we have about 650,500 social workers. By 2020, there will be over 800,000 social workers, and it will have grown by about 25% by 2020. You can also look down at the different categories, and you see that healthcare social workers will absolutely have a huge growth of 34%, and mental health and substance abuse social workers will also experience a very large increase. So compared to all other occupations, which will grow at the rate of 14%, social workers will grow at the rate of 25%. So there is a very bright employment possibilities there. A frequently asked question about social work is how it differs from other related behavioral sciences, especially if people are interested in working with people, with families and communities and so on. People say, why should I choose social work and not psychology or marriage and family therapy and so on? And that's a very excellent question. So I'd like to take just a minute to perhaps explain what the differences are. And this, the donuts that you see on your screen right now represent what is called the ecosystem model. And this is the foundational theoretical basis for the profession of social work. So here you see that the person is in the middle of the universe, basically. That person is very important to us. We want to help that person become empowered and to be able to solve their own problems and reach their full potential as a human being. However, we also recognize that the person is not an island unto him or herself. We know that every person is in context of other systems, as we call them. So typically, the first line of defense to come to this person's support is the family. Almost every person is born into a family, and the quality of that family support, of course, varies. So we find it very important that as we work with the person, that we also help that immediate system that impacts that person. So the family is very important, but the family is also embedded in the context of community. So whatever the resources are in the community, what the culture might be within the community, the kinds of employment opportunities in the community, the relationships that they may have with small and large organizations in that community, these are very important, and they all have direct impact on the family and also on the person. Now, the community is also embedded in a larger social environment, often the state, in the case of the US, or of course the state is then embedded within the nation, and then the nation is embedded in a global context or international context. So in social work, we recognize all these different systems that interact with one another, and we're able to learn to assess the strengths and difficulties at each level and try to harmonize the working between all these different systems to improve the functioning of the person, the family, the community, and the larger social environment. So that was a long slide, but this is a very important concept in social work, and the fact that we want to train you to become competent at each of these levels. And I'm happy to say that in my 30 plus years of being a social worker, that I have had the opportunity to work at every single level of the ecosystem. And it's been a wonderful, wonderful life and a career for me. So here I want to introduce you to the values and mission of social work. If you have already learned these, perhaps in an intro to social work class, I apologize for that. But I hope that you'll follow along with me as I read the values and the mission of the profession of social work. So the 6 core values of the profession of social work are dignity and worth of the person, service, integrity, importance of human relationships, competence, and social justice. Now, as you have read these with me, have you noticed that it becomes a set of values that you might identify with very strongly? You're probably listening to this seminar because you share many of these same values. And what other profession do you know that openly claims service as its main foundational value? Also, many of these other importance of human relationships. This is a set of values that we work and live by, not only just on our jobs, but every day of our lives. Because you cannot become a social worker and be truly dedicated to your work and your clients without embracing these values. If you don't embrace these values, then working with people who are not always the so-called winners of society can become very much a drudgery and become a burden. But when you embrace these values and you have the opportunities to work with people that are really needing your assistance, then it becomes a joy, and the congruence between who you are and what you do on a daily basis is a source of great satisfaction. I can tell you that from my own personal experiences and those of others in this profession. Now let's look at the right-hand side, the mission of the profession of social work. This is lifted from the National Association of Social Workers. This is called the Code of Ethics, and this is in the preamble of the Code of Ethics. The primary mission of the social work profession is to enhance human well-being and help meet the basic human needs of all people, but with particular attention to the needs and empowerment of people who are vulnerable, oppressed, and living in poverty. And so you see that we have emphasized those three phrases: vulnerable, oppressed, and living in poverty. And so social work is really the profession who claims these people who are often called marginalized in society, because these are the people who, for various different reasons, most often not due to their own doing, have been discriminated against and in many other ways become very vulnerable. And so these represent the values and the mission of the profession. So social work is not very well known in terms of its clinical work, that is, working with mental health. But our program focuses on turning out excellent therapists who can do clinical work, that is, psychotherapy. So you might not have known that licensed clinical social workers, or sometimes we call them LCSWs, they can become certified marriage and family therapists in Utah. But if you had a master's degree in marriage and family therapy in Utah, you could never become an LCSW. So you see that the LCSW is a very broad clinical licensure that can actually be added upon through different certifications. You can also certify as substance abuse counselors, many different specialties. And did you know that licensed clinical social workers can have a private practice here in the state of Utah, while a PhD is required of all other therapeutic professions? You might ask, why is that? A lot of it is because social work has been around for a very long time. It is a very well-established profession, and it is recognized as one that provides excellent training for entry-level and advanced mental health work. So, also, did you know that professional social workers are the nation's largest providers of mental health services? We provide between 60 and 70% of mental health services in the United States. The Veterans Administration employs MSWs, and that is more than any other degrees that they employ. And this is an amazingly exciting field right now. As you know, there are a lot of people suffering from PTSD, and veterans are not the only ones. Their families need counseling. They need a lot of substance abuse treatment. They have crises needs. They have substance abuse issues. And social workers are the main core of people providing services to the VA system. And of course, Utah's mental health and child welfare systems employ more social workers than any other degree. So social work is a very large profession with many, many different varieties of work that you can do. Let's talk briefly about some other places where people might work. That is social workers. Social workers are found in schools, hospitals. You can read this list for yourself, but it's amazing. Like it says at the bottom right corner, everywhere there are people, there is a need for social workers. Police, courts, even corporations, universities, women's shelters, prisons and jails, many other places. Let's take a look at a larger set of specializations that you can do in social work, you can see there are many, many different areas of social work. And so what the MSW does for you is to give you the basic foundational tools to be able to go into any of these settings. And of course, you have to learn a lot of these specific context particular skills, but you have all the basic skills to be able to go into these various settings and do well. Let's talk a little bit about salaries, because one of the standard things that people talk about when considering the profession of social work is, but is my family going to starve? Well, I'm happy to tell you that your family will not starve. You may not be filthy rich. You may, but you may have a middle-class lifestyle. You can raise children. I'm just here to tell you that most of us have done okay. And but you might take a look at these figures. Top 10% are making more than 70,000, and sometimes they're making into the six figures. The bottom 10%, these people might be social workers, but they might be even at the associate level. The median is 42.5. This could be a little higher by now. I think these statistics are about 3 to 5 years old, but they are the latest ones we can find. Oh, I see it's, yeah, 2010. So a little bit older, but the highest paying areas in terms of the social work field you might work in, you can see a list there: academics, research institutes, administration, and so on. So medical social work, school social work, etc. Here is a picture of the building in which the School of Social Work at BYU is housed. No, we do not have the whole building. We just have part of the second floor, and it is a beautiful facility. We hope that you will be able to come and see us if you're ever in the Provo area. We'd be happy to give you a tour, help you meet some of the faculty, and get to know us and our research agenda. So maybe we should talk a little bit about why do people choose BYU's MSW program. Well, as suggested by the title of this presentation, it is a very strong clinical social work program, but that's not all. We also have a very strong research program, and we focus on children and families. Another advantage of coming to BYU for your MSW is that, like nowhere else, you have the ability to learn about social work within the context of the LDS Church and its doctrines. You don't have to be an LDS person. We are very interested in welcoming people of all types of diversity, including religious diversity. But for the opportunity that we have of incorporating spiritual issues with secular learning, we think is a plus for everyone who comes into our program. And we have an exceptional financial aid package for everyone, and we'll go more into detail about that in just a little bit. So BYU School of Social Work is really an outstanding program. It's one of only 16 departments or schools that were ranked in the 2011 U.S. News and World Report that is nationally ranked. So we are a very well respected School of Social Work nationwide, and we do have students from many, many states as well as different countries too. Okay, a recent study found that our program was rated the third most selective graduate MSW program in the United States. We suspect that this could be even a little higher, perhaps first or second most selective graduate program. And so you might say, okay, if you're so selective and you have so many people applying, then why are you reaching out to other people to have more people applying? Well, the answer is that we're very interested in seeking out those people who are genuinely interested in a very rigorous program and have been well prepared to do well in such a very rigorous program. Um, we are the main supplier of LDS Family Services counselors, and our graduates are in demand, and no one seems to have any problems finding jobs. And as mentioned before, in social work, the field is very broad with many different types of jobs, and so if right out of your MSW you don't get your dream job, that doesn't mean that you're stuck there forever, because there are so many jobs. You'll likely have other opportunities to move on to different fields within the profession of social work in no time. So let's talk then about that important topic of financial aid and scholarships. So the main thing that is available to all MSW students is that we have a financial aid package between $10,000 and $20,000 while you are here with us. So for fall of 2014, over 62% of incoming MSW students have received full or half tuition scholarships and or research or teaching assistant positions. That's pretty amazing. But that's on top of everything else that you're going to get. So of the 52%, or rather 62%, 53 were offered full or half tuition scholarships, and 15 additional students, I believe it's more like 16, were offered graduate assistantships. And you might be surprised to know that we pay $16 an hour, so that is a very good rate. Last year also, our students received almost $100,000 in additional educational awards from AmeriCorps. So AmeriCorps has a few criteria. You have to be a U.S. citizen, you have to be at least 18 years old, and you have to be a high school graduate. I don't think most of you will have problems with those criteria. We also offer this. This is the flagship of our financial assistance package, in that every graduate student receives a paid internship. These internships will pay anywhere from $8 to, I've heard, as high as $17.50 an hour, for an average of $10 an hour. And you have to do 1,100 hours of internship in agencies, being real social workers. And so that means that you will make at least $11,000 on your paid internships. But as I mentioned, for others it will be more. And by the way, our program is the only one in the whole country that has paid internships to all of its graduate students. Other schools, they might be lucky if they can get 10% of their students into paid internships and so on, but we think that this is pretty amazing, and we're actually very proud of it, and we take good care of you, as you can see. So I think that we will now go more into the program itself. Okay, are you still with me here? Have I put you to sleep yet? If you want to get up and go get a drink or do whatever, be sure to pause, and you're welcome to go do that. Anyway, moving on, you can see that our mission statement of the School of Social Work is very consistent with the mission of BYU, the mission of the LDS Church, and with the profession of social work. So we want to support the overall mission of BYU and the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints by generating new knowledge and by educating and training students to use the appropriate knowledge, values, and skills of the social work profession to serve children and families within their environment and the context of their specific cultures. Now, that is a mouthful, and I know we worked hard on this mission statement to say everything in one sentence, but I think it's very good. I think it embodies everything that we wanted to represent in our mission statement. So our vision is not just to educate students and turn them into social work practitioners. We have a very ambitious goal. We want to generate future leaders in the social work profession who have the most comprehensive and up-to-date clinical practice and research skills to effectively help those that they serve, you see. So this is partly why we are reaching out to you, because we're hoping that you are a person who has the same vision for yourself, that you can see yourself becoming a leader in the profession that will be so competent in your clinical practice as well as in your research skills. Now, I am going to skip over these 10 competencies, but these are 10 competencies given to us by the Council on Social Work Education. And when you have time, you're welcome to come back to these screens and study these, because these are the ones that tell you what you will be learning in our program as well as in any other accredited MSW program. But of course, we want to feel like we are going to do an excellent job and definitely give you your money's worth in teaching you these competencies. Now I want to show you our emphases. We have in our one program, we have 2 emphases. So the first is the clinical practice emphasis, and we accept most students into that emphasis. This is the practice-bound emphasis, okay? So these are for people who are definitely heading into clinical practice after their MSW program. And the other smaller group is for people who want to do research. Now remember that everybody does research in the program, but these students, these 5 to 7 students, will be going on to their PhD and will learn advanced research skills as they leave. So really the difference between the 2 emphases is that the practice students will be taking 3 to 5 clinical elective courses, whereas the research students will be taking 3 to 5 research elective courses. And so you both have the same great foundation in both clinical and research, and then the electives will really help you to strengthen your preparation. Let's look at finally some other important facts. We're looking for future leaders. The program focuses on clinical practice and research with children and families. The curriculum focuses on individual, group, family, and couple therapy with adults, adolescents, and children. Now, then we are going to require you to have certain academic prerequisites, and here is where I get to stop, and I'm sorry to do so because I've really enjoyed giving you this information on a program that I am so proud of to be a part of. And I hope that you will consider this information very carefully, but I have to turn the time over to Nancy, our graduate secretary that I introduced you earlier in the picture on the far right of your screen. Do you remember? So Nancy will now introduce you to all the nitty-gritties of applying to the program. And remember that we are here always to answer your questions. All you have to do is to email us at msw dot, oh sorry, it's msw at byu.edu. Okay, it's been nice to talk to you. Sayonara.